Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. This morning we'll be in Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 1 through chapter 3, verse 29. Then we turned and set out toward the desert land on the way to the Red Sea, just as the Lord told me to do, detouring around Mount Seir for a long time. At this point the Lord said to me, "You have circled around this mountain long enough. Now turn north, and instruct these people as follows. You are about to cross the border of your relatives, the descendants of Esau, who inhabit Seir. They will be afraid of you, so watch yourselves carefully. Do not be hostile toward them, because I am not giving you any of their land, not even a footprint. For I have given Mount Seir as an inheritance for Esau. You may purchase food to eat and water to drink from them. All along the way, I, the Lord, your God, have blessed your every effort. I have been attentive to your travels through this great wasteland. These 40 years I have been with you. You have lacked for nothing." So we turned away from our relatives, the descendants of Esau, the inhabitants of Seir, turning from the desert route from Elat and Ezion-Geber, and traveling the way of the Moab wastelands. Then the Lord said to me, "Do not harass Moab and provoke them to war, for I will not give you any of their land as your territory. This is because I have given Ar to the descendants of Lot as their possession." The Emites used to live there, a people as powerful, numerous, and tall as the Anakites. These people, as well as the Anakites, are also considered Rephaites. The Moabites called them Emites. Previously, the Horites lived in Seir, but the descendants of Esau dispossessed and destroyed them, and settled in their place, just as Israel did to the land it came to possess, the land the Lord gave them. "Now get up and cross the Wadi Zered." So he did so. Now the length of time it took for us to go from Kadesh Barnea to the crossing of Wadi Zered was 38 years. Time for all the military men of that generation to die, just as the Lord had vowed to them. Indeed, it was the very hand of the Lord that eliminated them from within the camp until they were all gone. So it was that after all the military men had been eliminated from the community, the Lord said to me, "Today you are going to cross the border of Moab, that is of Ar. But when you come close to the Ammonites, do not harass or provoke them, because I am not giving you any of the Ammonites' land as your possession. I have already given it to Lot's descendants as their possession. That also is considered to be a land of the Rephaites. The Rephaites lived there originally. The Ammonites called them Zamzummites. They are a people as powerful, numerous, and tall as the Anakites, but the Lord destroyed the Rephaites in advance of the Ammonites, so they dispossessed them and settled down in their place. This is exactly what he did for the descendants of Esau, who lived in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites before them, so that they could dispossess them and settle in their area to this very day. As for the Avites, who lived in settlements as far west as Gaza, Caphtorites who came from Crete destroyed them and settled down in their place. "Get up, make your way across Wadi Arnon. Look, I have already delivered over to you Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Go ahead, take it, engage him in war. This very day I will begin to fill all the people of the earth with dread and to terrify them. When they hear about you, they will shiver and shake in anticipation of your approach." Then I sent messengers from the Kedemoth desert to King Sihon of Heshbon with an offer of peace. "Let me pass through your land. I will keep strictly to the road. I will not turn aside to the right or to the left. Sell me food for cash so that I can eat, and sell me water to drink. Just allow me to go through on foot, just as the descendants of Esau who lived at Seir and the Moabites who lived in Ar did for me, until I crossed the Jordan to the land of the Lord our God is giving us." But King Sihon of Heshbon was unwilling to allow us to pass near him, because the Lord our God had made him obstinate and stubborn, so that he might deliver him over to you this very day. The Lord said to me, "Look, I have already begun to give over Sihon and his land to you. Start right now to take his land as your possession." When Sihon and all his troops emerged to encounter us in battle at Jahaz, the Lord our God delivered him over to us, and we struck him down, along with his sons and everyone else. At that time we seized all his cities and put every one of them under divine judgment, including even the women and children. We left no survivors. We kept only the livestock and plunder from the cities for ourselves. From Aroer, which is at the edge of Wadi Arnon, it is the city in the Wadi, all the way to Gilead, there was not a town able to resist us. The Lord our God gave them all to us. However, you did not approach the land of the Ammonites, the Wadi Jabbok, the cities of the hill country, or any place else forbidden by the Lord our God. Next, we set out on the route to Bashan, but King Og of Bashan and his whole army came out to meet us in battle at Edrei. The Lord, however, said to me, "Don't be afraid of him, because I've already given him, his whole army, and his land to you. You will do to him exactly what you did to King Sihon of the Amorites who lived in Heshbon." So the Lord our God did indeed give over to us King Og of Bashan and his whole army, and we struck them down, until not a single survivor was left. We captured all his cities at that time. There was not a town we did not take from them, 60 cities, all the region of Argob, the dominion of Og in Bashan. All of these cities were fortified by high walls, gates, and locking bars. In addition, there were a great many open villages. We put all of these under divine judgment, just as we had done to King Sihon of Heshbon, every occupied city, including women and children. But all the livestock and plunder from the cities we kept for ourselves. So at that time we took the land of the two Amorite kings in the Transjordan, from Wadi Arnon to Mount Hermon. The Sidonians call Hermon Syrian, and the Amorites call it Senir. All the cities of the plateau, all of Gilead and Bashan, as far as Selecah and Edrei, cities of the kingdom of Og and Bashan. Only King Og of Bashan was left of the remaining Rephaites. It is noteworthy that his sarcophagus was made of iron. Does it not indeed still remain in Rabbath of the Ammonites? It is 13.5 feet long and 6 feet wide according to standard measure. This is the land we brought under our control at that time. The territory extending from Aroer by the Wadi Arnon, and half the Gilead hill country with its cities I gave to the Reubenites and Gadites. The rest of Gilead and all of Bashan, the kingdom of Og, I gave to half the tribe of Manasseh. All the region of Argob, that is, all Bashan, is called the land of Rephaim. Jair, son of Manasseh, took all the Argob region as far as the border of the Geshurites and Maacathites, namely Bashan, and called it by his name, Havoth Jair, which it retains to this very day. It gave Gilead to Machir. To the Reubenites and Gadites I allocated the territory extended from Gilead as far as Wadi Arnon. The exact middle of the wadi was a boundary, all the way to the Wadi Jabbok, the Ammonite border. The Arabah and the Jordan River were also a border, from the Sea of Chinnereth to the Sea of the Arabah, that is the Salt Sea, beneath the watershed of Pisgah, to the east. At that time I instructed you as follows: The Lord your God has given you this land for your possession. You warriors are to cross over before your fellow Israelites equipped for battle, but your wives, children, and livestock, of which I know you have many, may remain in the cities I have given you. You must fight until the Lord gives your countrymen victory, as he did you, and they take possession of the land that the Lord your God is giving them on the other side of the Jordan River. Then each of you may return to his own territory that I have given you. I also commanded Joshua at that same time, You have seen everything the Lord your God did to these two kings. He will do the same to all the kingdoms where you are going. Do not be afraid of them, for the Lord your God will personally fight for you. Moreover, at that time I pleaded with the Lord, O Lord God, you have begun to show me your greatness and strength. What God in heaven or earth can rival your works and mighty deeds? Let me cross over to see the good land on the other side of the Jordan River, this good hill country in Lebanon. But the Lord was angry at me because of you and would not listen to me. Instead, he said to me, Enough of that. Do not speak to me any more about this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah and take a good look to the west, north, south, and east, for you will not be allowed to cross the Jordan. Commission Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, because he will lead these people over and will enable them to inherit the land you will see. So we settled down in the valley opposite Beth Peor. So, at the start of those passages in Deuteronomy chapter 2, there was a description about, there was a little bit of narrative that was not included in Numbers, but is here in Deuteronomy. That is that they shouldn't harass the inhabitants of Mount Seir, because he, that is the Lord, gave them possession of that land. And also, do not harass Moab, because he has given, in chapter 2, verse 9, Ar to the descendants of Lot as their possession. So, kind of interesting. Don't have a whole lot to say about it, just, well, I guess it does, is interesting if when combined with other passages, like Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated, kind of thing. And considering that, if you're going to take the approach that hate means absolute hatred, that you don't care for the well-being of that people at all, rather than lesser love, that is, Esau I have loved less than Jacob, kind of thing, then why is it that God is caring for Esau's possession here, and indeed giving him a land to possess? So, also, the lands of Og, king of Bashan, and always forget the other guy, Sihon, king of Heshbon. They had fortified cities as part of their territory. So the fact that Israel was strong enough to conquer them, despite, essentially being this desert wandering people, is pretty cool. Carrying on, Luke chapter 6, verse 12 through verse 38. Now it was during this time that Jesus went out to the mountain to pray, and he spent all night in prayer to God. When morning came, he called his disciples and chose 12 of them, whom he also named apostles: Simon, whom he named Peter, and his brother Andrew, and James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon, who was called the Zealot, Judas the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. Then he came down with them and stood on a level place, and a large number of his disciples had gathered along, with a vast multitude from all over Judea. From Jerusalem, and from the seacoast of Tyre and Sidon, they came to hear him, and to be healed of their diseases. And those who suffered from unclean spirits were cured. The whole crowd was trying to touch him, because power was coming out from him and healing them all. Then he looked up at his disciples and said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for the kingdom of God belongs to you. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, and when they exclude you and insult you, and reject you as evil on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and jump for joy, because your reward is great in heaven, for their ancestors did the same thing to the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your comfort already. Woe to you who are well satisfied with food now, for you will be hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all people speak well of you, for their ancestors did the same thing to the false prophets. But I say to you who are listening, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. To the person who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other as well. And from the person who takes away your coat, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who asks you, and do not ask for your possessions back from the person who takes them away. Treat others in the same way that you would want them to treat you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you hope to be repaid, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, so that they may be repaid in full. But love your enemies, and do good, and lend expecting nothing back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, because he is kind to ungrateful and evil people. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be poured into your lap. For the measure you use will be the measure you receive. Awesome. And I do mean that literally. Yeah. I just want to say that I don't think when Jesus says to the person who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other as well, I don't think he's, at least in this particular verse, advocating for complete pacifism. That's the word. Because the striking another person on the cheek was a sign of disrespect. That is like a slap across the face. It isn't something that's intended to injure the other person, though that is a part of it. It's more considered as a sign of disrespect that that the other person doesn't like you. And to things like that, offer the other cheek as well. But regarding self-defense, when the issue of bodily harm comes up, I'd say at least this passage is silent on that particular matter. Yeah. And love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you, expecting nothing back, because then you will be sons of the Most High, because in the same way, he is kind to ungrateful and evil people. And if we want to be like our Father, who does good even to those who don't deserve it, then we too should follow his example. I'm not going to be able to capture all the nuance here, but this, do not judge and you will not be judged. Do not condemn and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Doesn't mean that we abandon all of our common sense and indeed embrace a secular humanist style of relative morality, because in other places it's said that we're supposed to judge the church, and that in the end days that Christians are to sit in place over judgment of angels, even. So it's not as though judgment itself is bad here. So what is Jesus getting at? And I think the idea here is not to condemn the other to death. I'm not sure. Let me see what Guzik has to say. Well, first of all, we need to preface it with be merciful, just as your Father also is merciful. And also you have parables where God forgives sinners and, like a king forgives a person who owed him a lot, but then he goes and takes and tries to exact an amount that was owed to him from somebody who owed him a much smaller amount. So in that way, we should be merciful and not like the man in the parable. Guzik says, among those who seem to know nothing of the Bible, this is the verse that seems to be most popular. Yet most of the people who quote this verse don't understand what Jesus said. They seem to think or hope that Jesus commanded a universal acceptance of any lifestyle or teaching. Just a little later in the same sermon, in 43 and 45, Jesus commanded us to know ourselves and others by the fruit of their life, and some sort of assessment is necessary for that. The Christian is called to show unconditional love, but the Christian is not called to unconditional approval. We really can love people who do things that should not be approved of. And C.S. Lewis himself brings this up in Mere Christianity, saying that when he was an atheist, he thought it was a silly distinction between loving a person but hating the actions that they do. And he thought that for a good while, until he realized that there was somebody that he was doing that to already, namely himself. That is, some of the things that he did he liked, and some of the things he did he didn't like. But still, throughout it, he, loved himself, still treated himself well. So, continuing with Guzik. So while this does not prohibit examining the lives of others, it certainly prohibits doing in the spirit it is often done. An example of unjust judgment was the disciples' condemnation of the woman who came to anoint the feet of Jesus with oil. They thought she wasted something. Jesus said she had done a good work that would always be remembered. They had a rash, harsh, unjust judgment. Yeah, so I guess part of that is the unjust judgment there. The chat is partially cut off for me, which is great. Yeah. The goodness of God leads to repentance. That's for sure. Carrying on. Psalm chapter 67, verses 1 through 7. May God show us his favor and bless us. May he smile on us. Selah. Then those living on earth will know what you are like. All nations will know how you deliver your people. Let the nations thank you, O God. Let all the nations thank you. Let foreigners rejoice and celebrate, for you execute justice among the nations and govern the people living on earth. Selah. Let the nations thank you, O God. Let all the nations thank you. The earth yields its crops. May God, our God, bless us. May God bless us. Then all the ends of the earth will give him the honor he deserves. And finally, Proverbs chapter 11, verse 27. The one who diligently seeks good seeks favor, but the one who searches for evil, it will come to him. Yep. And I think in many ways, when we choose not to align ourselves with God and seek for ourselves evil, essentially, God gives us what we want. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great day. Bye.